This is my new Model 3 Performance, and although I bought it new, this is actually the first ever new car that I've ever owned. So after buying and owning 7 used cars prior to the purchase of my new Model 3 Performance, I'll be lending my buying experience to those who are interested in purchasing a used Model 3 Performance, or even a used Tesla or used EV in general in 2025. But first, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is John with Blackbird Productions, and on this channel, I create car reviews, and I also create videos like this every week, just documenting my personal Tesla ownership experience. I'll say this video is just slightly different just because it's more broadly speaking to just Teslas in general, but nonetheless, I make videos similar to this every week. So if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely let me know by leaving a like on this video and also subscribing to the channel. I definitely would appreciate it. So to start this video off, I'm going to break it out into 3 sections just for simplicity. I'll start with some general advice. I'll also go over advice for people who are purchasing from a private seller, and also advice for folks who are interested in buying from a dealer that isn't Tesla. I feel like I have to make that clear, but dealers who aren't Tesla. All right, so the first point I have on here for general advice is look beyond the current state or region that you're in if you're looking to purchase a used Tesla. There is a large amount of Teslas available, and the chance of finding what you're looking for at that perfect price is right outside your door. That being outside your state or outside your current region that you're living in. The second thing you should consider in terms of general advice is to make sure that the car that you're looking at has a Carfax available or even attached to the listing online. I don't know about anyone else, but usually when I purchase a car, I want to know pretty much everything about it. And the Carfax report usually shows most of that data. It also shows like discrepancies, like missing service intervals. And the report also shows damage, or if you're buying like a salvaged or titled vehicle, it shows you where the damage was. So that way you can just take a look at it if the shop claimed that they fix the damage or whatever the case is. So the third thing is ensure that the Tesla warranty is still intact. And this is especially so for private sellers, which I'll get into a little bit later. You never want to buy a Tesla, especially with a warranty that isn't intact anymore, or maybe even like the previous owner did something to void the warranty. That's something that obviously I would want to know if I'm buying used. So that way, if I do want to purchase that car, then it will give me some extra negotiating power with the seller, whether that be a dealer or a private seller. Fourth general tip is just ask about the battery health on the car. I know cars.com actually just started doing this, but there's actually a battery health report that's attached to every EV listing. And it just gives you a general idea of where the battery health is, especially on those older Model 3 Performance cars or older EVs in general. That's something definitely important. The battery health on these cars are definitely important as they age over time. Just getting some insight around just the overall battery health in general, I feel like is good just because, again, Tesla just has that warranty. I want to say it's like 100,000 to 140,000 mile warranty on the battery, something like that. I don't know exactly what it is, so don't quote me on that, but I'll leave some links below so that way you can check it out for yourself. But anyway, if the battery health is lower than what it normally is supposed to be, then you can go in and use that Tesla warranty to replace the battery and pretty much get a brand new car out of it. So I think that would be the deal of the century, honestly. All right, last thing in terms of general advice. Know the value of the car. I know it sounds simple, but also crazy to a lot of people. When you walk into a dealer or you go to a private seller, you don't want them to upsell you or price gouge you out of a car listing that is a fraction of the value, for example. So you don't essentially you don't want to be taken advantage of, and knowing what the vehicle cost is critical to that. So know the value of the car that you're looking to buy. All right, so our next section here, private sellers. The first thing I would consider if I was looking to purchase from a private seller is never, well, I wouldn't say never, but consider not using Facebook Marketplace to purchase a Tesla. There's a lot of reasons why I would say that, but one of the main ones is a lot of cars on there are stolen or the history is a little muddy, and sellers aren't really willing to, like, for example, purchase a Carfax report for the car to ensure that it's not stolen, hasn't been in an accident, or whatever the case is. There's always just a can of worms when you're purchasing a car from Facebook. I'd say if it's not like a born and bred cash car, like we're talking like below $5,000, then I would not bother. However, I will say there are, you could say, deals there. And I have another video that I'm actually planning to scope out some of those deals and also give you guys some tips on how to buy on marketplaces such as Facebook Marketplace. So if you want to see that video, let me know by leaving a like on this one and also subscribing to the channel. That tells me that you'd want to see something like that. Okay, so my second point for private sellers is to just do your own research and also ask the right questions. I can't tell you this enough, but when you're dealing with private sellers, it's almost like dating a little bit, where you kind of have to like get to know the person, at least like on a surface level, and just ask the right questions. And I'll give you some examples that I wrote down here. The first question is pretty simple, but why are you selling? Why are you selling this car? And I get this question quite a lot when I sell cars. Well, the cars that I've had before, I've had this question asked to me quite a bit. So it's definitely not taboo to ask a question like this. Second question is a pretty important one, and it's, are there any modifications that I should know about this specific car? This should tell you, one, if they're honest, because obviously if you have access to the car and you can walk around it, you could easily tell, like, you know, if there's any modifications or anything like that. And two, this will tell you whether or not if the warranty has been voided on the car, depending on the modification. And the third question is sort of like a get to know them sort of question. And it's, what do you like most about this car? And I feel like a question like this is interesting to ask just because this kind of brings their guard down. That is, if they're being honest. If they're not being honest, they probably would just skirt around the question or just dodge it completely. But this is a question that I typically ask just to see if the car has been stolen or not. Because usually if a car has been stolen and someone's just trying to sell it just to get like a quick buck, then obviously they probably don't know a whole lot about the car. And you, being the expert researcher that you are, probably know a lot more about the car than they do. All right, so dealers. And I have a lot to say about dealers, so we're gonna have a little fun in this section. First point I have here is leave your emotions at the door. Dealers are experts at manipulation. I can tell you this firsthand. I've been manipulated. I'm clearly not impervious to that. But yes, I have been manipulated before by a dealer. Multiple dealers, actually. And what they do is they just use your emotions, like especially if you're emotionally attached to a car, they'll use that to their advantage. And all it takes is just really like one sniff, basically, to figure out whether or not they can manipulate you when you're looking for a used Tesla or used vehicle in general. But they'll essentially try to get you to sign some sort of high interest loan payment with them, or put in like a bunch of add-ons and stuff like that into the purchase to get you to sign away one of their loans. So leave your emotions at the door and try not to get attached to the car that you're about to see on the showroom floor or wherever it is. The second point I have is around knowing the value of your car. You can go to Kelley Blue Book and look up the value of the car and just plug in all of the specs and also the mileage of the car. And it gives you an estimate on what the car is worth. This is another thing that a lot of buyers just don't really do. So they get manipulated into signing any old loan contract with any value on it or anything like that. So my thought is, if the car isn't at least close to the Kelley Blue Book value or less than that, depending on, you know, if there's any modifications, damage, or anything like that, then I would just walk. And honestly, I'd go up to the dealer and just go, hey, you actually have a competitor with the same exact car, mileage, and spec, and they're selling it for XYZ price. And by the way, they're also 5 minutes away from my house, so I could just walk there. So why should I pay XYZ price with this car when I could just go over across the street to the other dealer? So just know the price of the car before you start talking numbers, especially because usually that's where they get you. I feel like also having the Kelley Blue Book value will stop them from price gouging, which isn't really a huge issue anymore now that we're, you know, out of the pandemic and the car values are starting to stabilize. But believe it or not, some dealers actually still do this, which leads me to my next point. If you're purchasing a car from a dealer, and that is never use dealer financing. If the dealer is partnered with, for example, Chase or some other big bank, and they have like a big sign in their office saying, oh, you can get 72 months with nothing down or something like that, don't fall for it. Trust me, I have fallen for this. And I'm telling you that it's a scam. don't do it. Because what they'll do is they'll call their bank, and essentially what they'll do is they'll just sell your offer to the highest bidder. So they might have a primary bank that they work with, but the reality is that they have a network of different banks that they work with for car loans. And chances are what they're going to do is they're going to pair you up with a high interest rate, which may look good on paper because you might look at that monthly payment and be like, wow, this is only like $50 a month. But long term, especially if it's a high term, high interest loan, like we're talking 72 months, 82 months, in some cases 144 months, which if you're doing a 144 month loan, I don't know if you should be shopping around for this specific car, maybe some other car. And I don't say that to deter your interest when it comes to Teslas. I'm saying that because it's not a very good financial decision, but just don't do it. Instead, what I would do is I would come in with my own method of payment, whether that be cash or a loan from either my personal bank or a trusted bank. I would either go to family members and let them know that, hey, I'm actually trying to get a loan for a car and I see you have a relationship with XYZ bank. Can I actually talk to your banker? And can you actually link me up? Because connections like that can help when it comes to just saving money in general and establishing a good relationship with a bank that you trust and also your family trusts. So my last point for the dealers, stop buying add-ons when it comes to VIN etching or PPF or even detailing, which if you could even call it that. I'll tell you, I was actually a sucker to this, which I say like half sucker to this, just because I shrewdly negotiated a lot of the options out. But when I had my Lexus UX 200 F Sport, I'll put a picture of it so you guys can see it. The dealer actually charged me for VIN etching. And I tried to tell him, look, I didn't ask for this. You guys just tacked this on as an option. But the guy was like, oh, we got to make money and this and that. And he was just basically giving me like this sob story, which I didn't really fall for, but I was kind of like so whittled down at that point where I was just like, all right, fine, whatever. It's only like an extra $3,000 or whatever the cost was at that point in time. I can't remember exactly what it was. But essentially he was like, oh yeah, we got to make money. And if we remove this, we won't be able to make money. And we got to keep the lights on and stuff like that. And I was just like, dude, you are a dealer. You're a car dealer selling me a car with a title, a branded title, you know? But that's something that they do. They give you sob stories. They give you all these different things. And they also make it a point to just whittle you down throughout the process. That's what a terrible dealer does. They just make you so frustrated and they just tire you out. It's almost like FBI negotiations. If you've ever seen any of those true crime YouTubers like Ewu or like any of those true crime YouTube channels, that's what they do. They literally put you in a room and the room may not even be that interesting. They get you to sign paperwork, and every time you ask a question like, oh, can you take this out? The guy leaves the room, comes back like half an hour later, and he's like, well, here's what my manager said, blah, blah, blah. Like they literally do it exactly like they do in FBI interrogations. It's insane. So my advice is just try not to fall for that. And also have a backup plan. It's not something that I've included in my notes here, but also just have like a couple of cars that you're going to look at that are close to the spec that you're wanting to purchase. This way you can have leverage over that specific dealer, especially if the cars are all within the same price, same color, same spec, same everything. And if they pull any of this crap on you, you can easily just walk. And if you tell them, hey, I'm actually about to go, I have like an appointment, blah, blah, blah. And the other dealer has already told me that they're going to offer me this car at XYZ price, then they're probably going to change their tune. They're more than likely to change their tune and get you out of the door as quick as possible. So that is my advice on buying a used Tesla. But like I said in the beginning, you could actually use this video as advice for buying just any car in general. I just use Tesla just because that's the most popular car right now, at least in the United States. And it's also a popular car amongst this channel. So if you enjoyed the video, definitely feel free to leave a like and also consider subscribing. Like I said in the beginning, I make car reviews and I make videos similar to this every week. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. This has been John with Blackbird Productions, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.